legendary sea serpent said to inhabit the waters of the Pacific Northwest. To date, there has been no actual hard evidence that this sea monster exists, but that might have just changed.
There's a monster in Alaska, and it's not a bear. It lives in the freezing, 1,000-foot deep waters of Lake Iliamna, and the people who have seen it say it would make a great white shark swim for its life. This isn't just folklore. We're talking about a creature so powerful it rips fishing nets to shreds and leaves scars on aluminum boats.
Hadberosaurus is generally described as an immense serpentine animal, anywhere from 60 to 100 feet in length, with a horse-like head, sharp fish-like teeth, giant forward-facing eyes.
The most shocking fact is that multiple government officials and pilots have filed official reports on it. Now, as the Alaskan ice melts, something is changing, and the encounters are becoming more frequent and far more aggressive. Where monsters hide. Deep in the Alaskan wilderness, far from any major city or highway, lies a body of water that defies imagination. This is Lake Iliamna. To call it a lake feels like an understatement. It's more like a freshwater ocean locked inside a continent. Stretching nearly 80 miles long and 25 miles wide, its surface covers over 1,000 square miles. You could drop the entire state of Rhode Island into it and still have water to spare. You see, it's this colossal scale that allows a mystery of this magnitude to exist. The sheer size of it means that anything could be hiding beneath its waves, completely undisturbed. The thing nobody tells you is that this isn't just a big pond. Lake Iliamna plunges to depths of over 1,000 feet in some places. That's deep enough to swallow the entire Eiffel Tower without a trace. In that crushing, icy darkness, light doesn't penetrate, and sonar signals can become distorted and unreliable. It's the perfect hiding place for something that doesn't want to be found. What many people overlook is that Lake Iliamna isn't entirely cut off from the rest of the world. It's connected to the ocean by the powerful Kvichak River, which flows into Bristol Bay and the Bering Sea. This connection is a critical piece of the puzzle. It's a two-way street for marine life. We already know for a fact that ocean creatures use it. Local fishermen and residents regularly spot freshwater seals, a unique population that has adapted to live in the lake year-round. Even more shocking, beluga whales have been seen swimming miles up the river, far from their saltwater homes. If seals and whales can make the journey, what else could have slipped in from the vast, unexplored depths of the North Pacific? This isn't just speculation, it's a documented biological corridor. The lake's environment is as strange as its reputation. Below the surface, the water is layered like a cake, with a warmer layer on top and a frigid, dense layer at the bottom. This divide, known as a thermocline, acts like a natural invisibility cloak. An animal could lurk just 30 feet below a boat, hidden in the colder water, and be virtually undetectable. Fishermen have talked about this for decades. They speak of an unnerving feeling of being watched from below and seeing massive, unidentifiable shapes on their fish finders that vanish in an instant. They describe how the lake swallows things, pulling them down into the abyss where they are never seen again. This isn't just talk. Boats have returned to shore with strange damage, deep scratches along their hulls, bent propellers, and sometimes even puncture marks that look eerily like they were made by a single, massive tooth. For generations, pilots flying over this immense body of water have reported seeing things that make the hair on their arms stand up. They describe enormous dark shadows gliding just beneath the surface. Not just one, but sometimes entire groups moving in formation. These shapes are far too big to be sturgeon and move with a fluid, powerful grace that doesn't match any known fish. To put it mildly, these accounts are deeply unsettling, especially coming from experienced bush pilots who know the Alaskan wilderness better than anyone. They all say the same thing. Whatever is down there is huge, intelligent, and has been there for a very, very long time. Something ancient is guarding these waters, a truth the first people knew long ago. Voices on the water. Long before modern sonar equipment and eyewitness reports, the indigenous peoples of the region knew that Lake Iliamna was a place of immense power and danger. Their knowledge wasn't written in books. It was woven into legends, songs, and warnings passed down through countless generations. For the Tlingit people, the story spoke of a creature named Guna Cadet, a great beast that was said to rise from the depths to capsize canoes and drag men into the frigid water. These weren't just scary campfire tales, they were practical survival guides. Elders taught the young to read the water's surface. If the lake turned dark and rippled when there was no wind, it was a sign that the Ganakadate was near, and it was time to get to shore immediately. Those who disrespected the warnings often disappeared, their fates becoming another verse in the cautionary tale. Similarly, the Aleut people who lived further west had their own name for the creatures, Jignook. Their oral histories describe these beings as ferocious hunters that worked in packs, circling boats before striking from below. A key piece of their lore was a strict rule: never travel on the lake alone. The Jignook were said to be so powerful they could smash wooden boats to pieces with a single blow. The most shocking fact is how consistent these ancient descriptions are. Many people are crazy about the idea of a single monster, but these legends often describe groups of animals. Both the Tlingit and Aleut traditions mention creatures with gleaming, metallic-looking skin and long, powerful bodies. This detail is bizarrely specific and has echoed through centuries, appearing again and again in modern sightings. These warnings weren't just spoken, they were carved into totem poles and woven into ceremonial masks, constant reminders of the lake's dual nature. It was a source of life, providing massive salmon runs, but it could also be a source of sudden, violent endings. When Russian fur traders arrived in the 1700s, they initially dismissed these native stories as primitive superstition. You see, their focus was on the wealth of sea otter pelts, not on local folklore. However, their own journals soon began to fill with disturbing entries. They recorded accounts of their sturdy boats being struck by unseen forces, of men being pulled from the water by something they couldn't identify. Their bodies never recovered. As their own losses mounted, the traders began to listen more closely to the ancient warnings. A healthy fear of the lake began to set in. One could only imagine the terror of paddling across the still, glass-like water only to see a shadow the size of a whale pass underneath, followed by the splintering crack of the hull breaking apart. What many overlooked for so long was that these legends were not myths, but a historical record of observation. The first peoples of Lake Iliamna were essentially the first scientists to study the creature. They didn't have modern tools, but they had something more valuable: centuries of direct lived experience. The map of warnings they left behind is still shockingly relevant today, as the details of their legends align almost perfectly with what pilots, fishermen, and investigators continue to report in the 21st century. The old warnings were about to get a dose of modern credibility. The $100,000 Beast. The shift from ancient legend to modern mystery can be traced back to a single clear afternoon in the summer of 1942. A respected Alaskan bush pilot named Babe Allsworth was flying his small plane over Lake Iliamna. With him was Bill Hammersley, a government wildlife agent. It was supposed to be a routine flight, but what they saw that day would ignite a global fascination with the lake's secrets. As they soared over the vast expanse of water, Allsworth spotted something unusual below. At first, he dismissed them as logs, but as he banked the plane for a closer look, the shapes moved. They were alive. Hammersley pressed against the window, confirming what Allsworth was seeing. It wasn't one or two shapes, it was a whole group of them, more than a dozen, gliding in a loose formation. Allsworth later described them as enormous, metallic-looking animals, each one nearly as long as his plane's 25-foot wingspan. Their backs shimmered in the sun like polished aluminum. For a pilot and a government agent, both trained observers known for their level-headedness, the sight was undeniable and profoundly strange. Their report gave the legend something it never had before: official credibility. Many people are crazy about dismissing folklore, but it's much harder to ignore a detailed account from a pilot and a federal agent. Their sighting opened the floodgates, and other pilots began to come forward with similar stories. The news eventually reached Tom Slick, a wealthy Texas oil man with a passion for funding expeditions to find unknown creatures like the Yeti and Bigfoot. Lake Iliamna became his new obsession. Slick poured money into a full-scale investigation, sending teams equipped with cameras, nets, and an unwavering determination to capture the beast. During one of these expeditions, a story emerged that a massive custom-made steel fishing hook, the size of a man's arm, was lowered into the deep. When they pulled it up, it had been bent completely straight. as if something with unimaginable power had simply toyed with it. The real frenzy, however, began in 1979. The Anchorage Daily News, Alaska's largest newspaper, decided to put the legend to the ultimate test. They offered a staggering $100,000 reward for the first person to provide conclusive, physical proof of the Iliamna monster. The announcement turned the lake into a global hotspot for monster hunters, adventurers, and scientists. To put it mildly, it was a media circus. The hunt that followed was one of the most ambitious of its kind. Teams brought in small submarines to probe the dark depths, their lights cutting feeble paths through the black water. Advanced sonar equipment scanned the abyss, returning tantalizing but inconclusive readings of massive objects moving far below. Hydrophones were dropped into the lake, recording a symphony of eerie, low-frequency sounds that didn't match any known aquatic animal in the region. The lake was under siege, but the monster remained elusive. Despite the high-tech efforts, no one ever claimed the prize money. The submarines captured only murky footage, the sonar blips could never be definitively identified, and the strange sounds remained a mystery. The great hunt ended not with a bang, but with a collective shrug. Yet the mystery only deepened. The lack of a body proved nothing. It only reinforced the idea that whatever lived in Lake Iliamna was intelligent enough to avoid capture and powerful enough to defy humanity's best efforts to find it. The hunt may have failed, but the evidence kept piling up in other ways. Footprints in the water. As the sensationalism of the monster hunt faded, a more sober-minded investigation began. Scientists started looking for a rational explanation, a known animal that could be responsible for the centuries of sightings. The most popular and compelling theory points to the Pacific sleeper shark. Bruce Wright, a respected biologist with years of experience in Alaskan waters, has championed this idea. Sleeper sharks fit the profile in several ways. They are true giants capable of growing to over 20 feet long and weighing thousands of pounds. They thrive in cold, deep water, possess an incredibly powerful bite, and have been known to eat anything from seals to moose. Crucially, they are found in the nearby ocean, and it's entirely plausible they could swim up the Kivachak River into the lake. However, the sleeper shark theory has some major holes. Eyewitnesses, including seasoned pilots and fishermen, consistently report creatures that are much, much larger than even the biggest sleeper shark. Some estimates go as high as 40, 50, or even 60 feet. Furthermore, witnesses often describe the creatures as moving in coordinated packs, a social behavior that has never been observed in the solitary sleeper shark. And then there's the description of a metallic sheen on their backs, something completely alien to the shark's dark, mottled skin. The same issues apply to the other main candidate, the white sturgeon. While sturgeon can grow to enormous sizes, they don't match the descriptions of a creature with immense girth or pack-hunting behavior. The thing nobody tells you is that for these theories to work, we would have to assume these known animals are behaving in ways that are completely contrary to everything we know about their species. You see, modern technology has only made the mystery stranger. In recent years, scientists have begun using environmental DNA, or eDNA, to analyze water samples from the lake. This groundbreaking technique can identify species just from the genetic traces they leave behind. While the tests confirmed the presence of salmon, seals, and other expected wildlife, they also picked up DNA sequences that did not match any known fish or mammal in existing databases. This hints at the presence of an unidentified species lurking in the water. Thermal imaging has added another layer of intrigue. Aircraft equipped with infrared cameras have flown over the lake at night, detecting large, warm-blooded heat signatures moving just below the surface. These shapes were far too big to be seals or schools of fish, appearing and disappearing in the deep channels of the lake. And then there's the physical evidence, the things you can hold in your hand. Fishermen continue to pull up nets that look like they've been put through a wood chipper. They find their steel cables and hooks, designed to withstand thousands of pounds of force, snapped or bent out of shape. What do you think is really down there? If it isn't a shark or a sturgeon, could we be on the verge of discovering a new apex predator? Let us know below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.